If you're a wrestling fan, you may know a thing or two about the cruiserweight divisions in WCW and WWE. WWE has had some success, I guess, with their two iterations of this, but WCW was the real pillar of cruiserweight wrestling in the United States, back when it existed. This is also when WCW booked its cruiserweight division well, At the time of the Monday Night Wars, WCW was on fire and WWF was just starting to gain back some ground. 1996 and 1997 were absolute peak years for WCW's Cruiserweight division, with the likes of Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Ultimo Dragon, Alex Wright, Psychosis, Syxx, and many others. 1997 was probably the best year collectively for American professional wrestling, and despite losing in the ratings war, WWF was genuinely great at this time. But because of the immense competition, WWF decided to have their own version of the Cruiserweight title and division, which brings us to the Light Heavyweight division. Now, I don't necessarily want to get into the whole history of the division and everything because I'm here to mainly talk about one guy. But the division did look promising at first. That quickly fizzled out. There was still some great talent for a Light Heavyweight division, but the man in charge simply never cared about this. He just cared about seeming like there was a direct competitor to one of the best things going on in WCW, but it was night and day. Now, I know that most of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed, so if you enjoy the videos that I'm making and want to see more, make sure to hit the subscribe button and yeah, let's get on with the video. But the Light Heavyweight Championship has had some great champions. Taka Michinoku, Dean Malenko, S.A. Rios, even Christian. I'll include Gilbert too. But there's one man that I feel is very underrated as Light Heavyweight Champion, and that brings me to Jerry Lynn. Most people probably forget Jerry Lynn was even in the WWF at some point, and I wouldn't blame you because he only competed in there for like 3 months. Lynn was a much bigger name in ECW and Ring of Honor, where he won the World Championships in both promotions, but I'll be honest, I've never watched any of that stuff, so seeing him in the WWF as well as a couple of appearances he's made in AEW are the only ways of exposure I've had of him. I know, I'm missing out on a lot. But back to his run in the WWF. Now, I believe he is the most underrated Light Heavyweight Champion. There's maybe an argument for other names, but I'm sticking with him. Now, he was only champion for 38 days, but in the Attitude Era, a title reign that long feels like 4 months basically, so it's cool. Jerry Lynn made his televised debut on the edition of Sunday Night Heat before Backlash, where he defeated Crash Holly to win the title. Not a bad way to debut, winning a title off rip, even if it's on Heat. From here, Jerry Lynn will continue making defenses of the Light Heavyweight title on all of the WWF shows, so yes, even Raw and SmackDown, although he didn't really appear on those as much. In total, he had 7 successful defenses of the title. On average, that's 1 defense every 5.5 days. Quick maths! One was on SmackDown, which was a good but short match against Grandmaster Sexay, and one was on Raw in a 4-way match, and that was definitely way too short because I believe with the competitors involved, that could have been a much greater match. One thing about me though is I absolutely love my C and D level wrestling shows. I personally find those kinds of shows with jobber matches and mid-card matches to be really fun to watch, and it was here that Jerry Lynn truly shined in my opinion. Sunday Night Heat was where he and Dean Malenko had a pretty good match for the title. He and S.A. Rios had 2 matches for the title, one of which was on Heat, which was very good, and one on Jacked, which I thought was a banger. Both matches though were only like 5 minutes, but they did make the most out of those 5 minutes. S.A. Rios was basically the king of Jacked, so this was nothing new to him. It was also just how the Light Heavyweight division was treated in general. Not very much time given to them, but they'd ball out in that limited time. I also have to shout out Jerry Lynn's match on Jacked against Christopher Daniels, who at this time had almost no exposure on TV. Despite this being a jobber match, it was about 4.5 minutes long, and again, these two had a banger. These two would later mix it up more often in TNA, but it was really cool seeing them face off here in a title match on WWF's least cared about show and putting on a short banger like this. That's the thing, Jerry Lynn was always balling out in these matches. To me, that's why I find him to be the most underrated champion. He was constantly defending it in such a short time on all of WWF's programs, and despite the short amount of time, with like anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes really, he and his opponents were putting their all into it. There's some other champions like Jeff Hardy, Crash, or S.A. Rios who also held the title for a short amount of time, but they didn't really do a whole lot with the title while defending it. The difference with Jerry Lynn is what he did in such a short time frame as the champion. While a certain someone didn't really respect this type of wrestling, it's nice to see that the competitors did, and Jerry Lynn was a great champion. I wish he was able to keep the title a bit longer, but he ended up dropping it to Jeff Hardy on SmackDown, which I personally thought was whack since they didn't even book him on the main shows much before this anyways. Jerry Lynn's entrance theme in the WWF was also a banger. It may be stock music like some other entrance themes, but it's still a banger. while on the subject of the most underrated light heavyweight champion in history, I also can't forget about one of the most iconic moments of his title reign. Not a match, but a promo. This promo took place on the episode of Sunday Night Heat preceding Judgment Day 2001. It was basically like a work shoot type of promo where Jerry Lynn complained about not competing on the pay-per-view defending his championship, but it's become such a memed promo over the years because it is honestly really funny.
Big whoopity-doo!
First of all, he says he worked all his life to be the light heavyweight champion, which is hilarious in itself because the title has only been around for like 4 years at this time, and it's definitely not a title wrestler should be dreaming about. But I love the dedication and trying to put it over. And then the ending of this promo where he says Judgment Day in such a deep metal voice is just so fucking funny because of how out of nowhere it is.
If I was there, I'd give a whole new meaning to the words Judgment Day.
Truly one of the greatest promos of all time. I don't care. So yeah, Jerry Lynn was a great champion, even if his title reign didn't last that long. He had an all-time promo still remembered to this day, and had lots of bangers on Heat and Jacked. He didn't last much longer in the company as he just remained on the 2 more obscure shows where he was still wrestling bangers, and I'd recommend watching his matches with Crash and Rob Van Dam. After all that, he ended up getting a bad ankle injury, and well, that was it for him in the WWF. Obviously, you gotta discount the fact that he ended up getting injured, but he was still very underutilized in a short time with the company. Another reason I find him to be the most underrated light heavyweight champion is because he was so talented and yet there wasn't much else of note done with him. It's a real shame because he was a great wrestler and one of the main influences for the style of wrestling we still see to this day. He is a real pioneer.
Big whoopity-doo!
Let me know down below what you think of all this and your own opinions on the light heavyweight division and Jerry Lynn. Also, let me know what else you'd like to see me talk about on this channel. Like the video, subscribe for more videos, and yeah, thank you for watching.